and we'll talk about it.
Here with us at this time. Yeah, well, our deadline is coming up right now in a couple of days. And I think you've just heard a lot of chatter about, what we're asking for is not sustainable for the business. And being on this side with Unrivaled, I know what it takes to run a sustainable business. So I think if they can't find a model that makes that happen, they need to put people in place who can, because we prove.
This is where concern turns into alarm. Nfisa Collier is not an outside critic. She is a key member of the Players Association negotiating the next collective bargaining agreement. She has a direct influence on demands being made at the table. And her understanding of business sustainability appears to be rooted in a league that has existed for barely 8 weeks. That league operates in one location. It relies entirely on private investors. It has not demonstrated profitability, and it openly accepts losses in exchange for visibility and branding. That is not a flaw. It is a startup reality, but it is not a foundation for rewriting the economics of an established professional league. Yet this is the perspective driving demands for a 50% revenue share. Demands that assume stable long-term income. Demands that assume predictable growth. Demands that assume the league can absorb enormous financial risk without consequences. WNBA fans should pay attention to this disconnect. Because if negotiations are being shaped by a misunderstanding of how sustainability actually works, the risk isn't just to owners or executives. It's to the league itself. Investor-funded optimism is not a substitute for proven revenue. And building policy on that confusion is a gamble the WNBA cannot afford to make.
It's grown so much, conversation around it has gone down. Oh no. The sport has grown so much that the chatter around it has gone, oh, you hate to see it.
The structural differences between Unrivaled and the WNBA make direct comparisons not just flawed, but misleading. Unrivaled operates entirely out of a single location. Players train in the same facility. Games are played in the same arena. There's no travel schedule, no cross-country logistics, and no competition for arena availability. The WNBA, by contrast, operates across multiple cities. It manages travel, hotel accommodations, staffing, marketing, and scheduling conflicts with NBA teams in shared venues. Those costs are enormous. They are unavoidable, and they exist regardless of whether a particular game sells out. Unrivaled avoids all of that. Its overhead is minimal by design. That doesn't make it efficient. It makes it incomparable. Running a centralized short-season league is fundamentally different from operating a national professional sports league. Calling Unrivaled a sustainable business model under these conditions stretches the definition of sustainability beyond recognition. It is closer to a well-funded training camp with broadcast coverage than a true league ecosystem. The cameras may be there. The branding may look polished. But the underlying financial realities are worlds apart. That's why this comparison feels intellectually dishonest. It ignores scale. It ignores obligations. And it ignores the reality that what works in a tightly controlled environment does not automatically translate to a league with permanent teams, regional fan bases, and year-round responsibilities. Efficiency achieved through reduced scope is not the same as sustainability achieved through revenue. Treating them as equivalent is a mistake, one with serious consequences if accepted uncritically.
Why are you doing this to us? We don't like this type of nonsense. Just be straightforward with us. Be straightforward with us, please. So I think if they can't find a model that makes that happen, they need to put people in place who, you know what, let's put you in place. Let's put you, Brianna Stewart, Kelsey Plum, Brianna Turner, and that go. Let's just put all you guys in charge. You guys run the WNBA. Ooh, wait.
Listen carefully to the claim being made, because this is where everything starts to unravel. The assertion is that Unrivaled has already proven it can operate as a sustainable business. That is the foundation of the argument. But when you slow down and actually examine the facts, the claim collapses almost immediately. Unrivaled has existed for exactly 1 season. It has not released financial statements. It has not reported a single dollar of profit. And before its second season has even begun, it is already losing or failing to attract some of the biggest names in women's basketball. Yet this league is being presented as evidence that the WNBA should meet sweeping collective bargaining demands, including massive revenue sharing changes. The confidence behind that statement is striking. It sounds decisive. It sounds authoritative. But confidence is not the same as credibility, and that distinction matters when the future of a professional league is at stake. Sustainability is not about short-term visibility or temporary funding. It is about whether a business can consistently cover its costs through its own revenue streams over time. Ticket sales, media rights, sponsorships, merchandise. These are the metrics that define sustainability. Unrivaled has not demonstrated success in any of those areas at scale. Instead, it is operating on investor capital, which is designed to absorb losses in the early stages of a project. That is not proof of sustainability. That is proof of financial backing. What makes this argument particularly troubling is how it is being used. Unrivaled existence is being positioned as leverage in WNBA labor negotiations, as if a startup experiment automatically invalidates decades of league economics. The logic leap is enormous. A league that has not survived a single full business cycle is being used to pressure an established organization into long-term financial commitments. This isn't about doubting ambition or innovation. New leagues should exist. Experiments should happen. But presenting an unproven product as definitive proof that another league is failing financially is reckless. The confidence may be remarkable, but when stripped of rhetoric, the logic does not hold up under even basic scrutiny.
Without you guys, with Sophie, without you guys. You guys do your own thing in this make-believe league, and WNBA will move on. Let me just say something about Unrivaled, because I watched about 7 to 9 possessions. I think I told you that.
At one point, she unintentionally revealed more than she likely meant to. She said the sport has grown so much that the conversation around it has actually declined. That single sentence exposed the core contradiction in the argument. The WNBA just completed the most successful season in its history. Viewership hit record highs. Arenas sold out at unprecedented rates. Media coverage exploded. The league dominated sports discussions in ways it never had before. And yet, as soon as the season ended, that momentum slowed. The nonstop attention faded. The casual audience moved on. That is not unusual in sports. Off-seasons are quieter by nature. But instead of acknowledging that reality, this drop in conversation is being framed as proof that players deserve significantly more money right now. That's where the logic breaks. Growth in popularity does not automatically translate to stable, recurring revenue at the level required to support massive structural changes. Visibility is not the same as profitability. A viral moment does not equal a sustainable income stream. The league's success was real, but it was also heavily concentrated around specific stars, matchups, and storylines. When this argument hit the internet, the response was immediate. Fans were quick to point out the disconnect. If the league just had its best year ever, why is the conversation already struggling to maintain itself? And if attention is this fragile, how does that justify demands that assume long-term financial security? The reaction wasn't driven by hostility toward players. It was driven by skepticism toward the reasoning. People understand growth. They also understand volatility. What they rejected was the idea that a temporary peak in interest automatically guarantees future stability. This moment mattered because it exposed how much of the argument relies on vibes rather than data. The WNBA's growth is real, but growth alone does not eliminate financial risk. Treating a quieter off-season as evidence that the league can afford anything asked of it ignores how professional sports economics actually work.
As soon as TNT has to start crediting back advertisers, that handout money goes away and this thing collapses. Let's be for real here, right? Unrivaled is so sustainable that they can't.
It didn't take long for reality to set in. 7 to 9 possessions. That's all it took for many viewers to remember exactly why they weren't excited about Unrivaled in the first place. The novelty wore off almost instantly. The atmosphere inside the arena felt flat. The energy was missing. The building lacked the tension, noise, and emotional investment that make professional basketball compelling. The on-court product didn't help. Shooting percentages were rough enough to draw unflattering comparisons to high school-level play. Possessions dragged. Defense looked disorganized. The pace felt more like an exhibition than a competitive league. And perhaps most telling of all, many of the biggest stars in women's basketball either declined to participate or are already rumored to be planning their exit. This is the context that cannot be ignored. Unrivaled is not struggling because people don't understand it. It's struggling because once the curiosity faded, the product didn't hold attention. And yet this is being presented as the blueprint the WNBA should follow. That's the problem. A league asking for fundamental economic restructuring should be held to the highest standard of proof. Instead, what's being offered is a model that hasn't demonstrated demand, hasn't proven quality, and hasn't shown the ability to retain talent long-term. Excitement cannot be manufactured through messaging alone. It has to be earned through consistent high-level competition that people want to watch. Unrivaled may improve, it may evolve, but at this stage, using it as justification for sweeping changes to the WNBA is premature at best and irresponsible at worst. Before a model is copied, it should succeed on its own terms. That has not happened yet.